Just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, standing here not bothering anybody. Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh figure or fodder. You all were right. Dang it. It's actually been since 2018 that I did a figure or fodder, and for some reason in my head, I had turned it into something that I wasn't sure I wanted to buy. So I put it out in front of the camera and tried to convince myself to put it on the shelves. And if not, it just went in a bucket. But no, I went back and watched them, and it's actually me going through toys that I've bought that I thought would go on the shelves, but then maybe not. Does it replace something? Does it go in its own little area? Who knows? Will it be figure or fodder? Don't get old, kids. But today, let's see what's going on with the Mattel Masters of the Universe Masterverse New Eternia Beastman, the Marvel Legends 20th Anniversary Iron Man, the Marvel Legends Retro Carded Rhino. Ooh, that light is bright. The McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Megafig Nekron, Hasbro Transformers Core Class Wheelie, and then everyone's favorite announcement of the year, the Hasbro Star Wars Black Series Publishing Edition of Black Krrsantan. Let's go ahead and start with Nekron because I hadn't planned on actually buying this. It was part of a package deal on McFarlane store with Bane, and I really wanted Bane, and I thought, well, if I end up liking this, might as well get it, right? And get a discount, kind of cover shipping. Got your stand, have your card. There's a brief history of Nekron on the back. As an action figure, it's right up Todd's alley, isn't it? Or at least it's what we think of when we think of up Todd's alley. Kind of zombie-like, the decayed flesh, the bone showing through, the innards, the metal, just everything about this. Lots of great sculpted detail and those white eyes peering out at you. Nice skin texture, come working down to some wraps, and then same on the left. This metal cuff or whatever seems to be a separate piece. Ring around the legs under the robe. Fairly basic, actually, compared to all the detail up here. Top of the boot works down to some wrinkles and everything. Pretty generic foot. Toe joint. Silver on the belt coming around. That's painted onto the overlay, and that is a separate piece all the way up. Kind of looks like a hood that's been thrown back. You can see some spine, and if I didn't know any better, are those little faces, or am I just seeing things? I'm bad about that. I do notice that the plastic seems to be a different color from shoulder to arm. Is that because of different materials? Well, this one seems to match better all the way up. Or is it different shoulders? There's something going on here. Thankfully, it's mostly hidden behind the robe. Yep, this is a separate piece too. Rubbery glued in the back. Do you like bondage? But the focal point is his exposed black heart in all the venom goo. It's just a cool visual. It moves how you expect McFarlane figures to move at this point. Has all kinds of articulate. Oh, arm all the way over. Got some hula hoop. And now that I'm looking there too, maybe it's the extra detail. The head seems to be darker than the body too. Does it match? No torso articulation though. Not that I could, well, there may be something back here, but it is traffic coned all to hell because they wanted to keep this intact. I think the biggie though, especially after Mattel did us dirty all those years ago, is the scythe. Have the Black Lantern up at the top. I'm noticing, on mine at least, I can't speak for anybody else's, but the top is glued on crooked, and it is not budge. Oh, wait, am I breaking something? It looks like I'm tearing the top of it. Maybe it's molded that way? Or maybe that's accurate to the comic. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've read Black as Night. The matte blackness to the blade kind of throws me. It's metal. I think it should be shiny, or at least my brain is telling me it should be shiny, but I'm a sucker for some dull black. Then it goes down to the handle where it looks like a tree limb. Look how close the grip hand is. Thankfully, the fingers are pretty soft. Maybe I can flex it open and get it in. Oh yeah, not a problem. And it's pretty damn imposing at 10 inches tall, which makes it quite a bit taller than your standard McFarlane DC Multiverse figure, like the best Batman ever. And about a head taller than the DC Universe Classics Collect and Connect. I nearly said Build-A-Figure. I can't help it. And like I said earlier, that did not come with a scythe. I think I stole this from the DC Collectibles version, DC Direct, whatever it was at that time. I don't know how hard this is to track down now, but this has that Mattelness to it, which isn't bad, especially in the context of all the DC Universe Classics figures, but comparing these two, oh, there's some extra detail going on here. The McFarlane is more dynamic overall, although there is something to be said about the cleanness here. Next up, how about the Studio Series Core Class Wheelie? Friend find, look behind. Those are my kind of instructions. Oops, there's more on the back. Went to mess with the figure and then realized he doesn't have a weapon. But I was wrong. it's still hiding right there. So if you pick this up, don't forget to take out the slingshot. As a figure, not bad. It's a little chunkier than what I think of when it comes to Wheelie, but that's not a bad thing. Gives him a little bit more meat. Can look up and around. Got some nice kick. Knee, some toe is down, no tilt. Arm swings up all the way around. Elbow threw me for a minute. I couldn't get it to go. It actually pegs in the back, and then you bend it forward, and it also has some in and out. I guess I could have just said ball joint, but where's the fun in that? More dynamic than I thought it'd be, especially with this swing up joint at the shoulder. You can get it up to here and then around, but I'm gonna attempt to transform this on camera, which I'm terrible at, so bear with me. The instructions say to just lift this up, but I've figured out if you take the head and go ahead and push it back there, it makes it much easier. There's also some oddness here. In the instructions, it says bring the legs forward at the hips, pop the toes down, and turn at the knee like this. But you're going to run into trouble because it actually wants you to shift at that second joint there, because you're also going to need to rotate the hips in a bit on those ball joints. That gets everything all straightened out. Then you can bring this over. That goes on both sides behind the wheels and just kind of push until it snaps into place. Bring the back down, just swing these up, peg the arms in. The hands are still exposed in alt mode, but that's not bad. There's even a hidey hole for the slingshot back here. That pegs together really, really, really tight. Gotta pry it apart. Easy enough, pretty quick to go through the transformation. Colors are way deeper than the Wheelie that came with Grimlock. If this could stand up, it'd almost be the same size, but it can't. That's why I got this. Still small, but supposed to be. Next to Bumblebee, next to Grimlock. I'll still keep this one around to hang out on Grimlock if I want it that way. But this is now my shelf Wheelie, of course. Next, let's crack open Beastman. Oh no, that just comes open. I bought this because this is the running change with the torso that matches the limbs. I think early ones had a darker brown to it. You can see it up under the fur thing on the shoulders. I noticed the hat thing was gone and was hoping it was in the back of the package, but now that I realize that the top just unfolds, did somebody get in there, or did it come out, or was it stolen, or... Well, before we get that far, yeah, it's not in there. It's not a huge deal, but I kinda like getting everything I pay for. I'm not too worried about exchanging it. I was going for more of a classic Beastman here anyway. And no, this is not flocking, this is fur. I have no problem with this. Shh. I like the overall look of this. It's actually cloth under there. This gives him a very, very broad look. I like the skull, I like the horns popping up, I like the armor bits. Oh, and they're all separate. Ooh, I don't know why I didn't realize that. That is some nostalgia tug for you. Are the legs the same? No, the knees. Oh, it's actually part of the shin guard. It tabs in just like a vintage figure, although they are bigger, so hopefully they'll be more secure than when I was 8, 9 years old. Okay, the only thing that stays new Eternia is the crotch cover. It has some cloth hanging down, sculpted in with the fur. And there's weapon storage. Does this go like this? It does. But if I want to take this off, oh, it's right there. Up over the head. Help me! Skeletor! Slides down the arm. Okay, cool. Body underneath is, oh, it's not the same. When this was revealed, I assumed it was going to be the same body as the Masterverse Beastman, but it's not. It's actually bigger. It's a different sculpt altogether. New Eternia has some bulk to him. Even with all that armor, look at the range of motion. Some double knees? What's going on there? Ooh! This is what I was looking for, though. Okay, that's easier. Let's do it like that. Let's see how this works. Fairly easy. Thank you, Mattel, from my younger self. With that, we get more of a classic design, which is what I was looking for here. Again, with that sash hanging down. So you can't swap it out completely, but still looks good. Also comes with this big spiky bat. Is that teeth embedded into it? Some wrap around the handle and a loop. Does that go somewhere? Probably not. And then I already showed the whip, which is just a string, so you can still whoosh. And to hold those, it comes with an extra set of gripping hands. I like that. I am finding it a bit cumbersome with all these separate armor pieces. Don't get me wrong, I love the look of it, but as you're moving around, posing, getting into that, not so much the legs, they seem to stay in place, but the arms, they do fly around, get around to the back, hang down. These two up here, they like to get out of position. That's just something you have to think about. Get it down and around, and then put the armor in a position. Beastman stands at about 7¼ inches tall. Standing them both straight up and down, it's not quite as tall as I thought it was compared to the Masterverse Beastman, but you can see the size difference. And it gives them some size compared to other Masterverse figures like my Frankenstein, He-Man, and Skeletor. Those 40th anniversary versions will be my display He-Man and Skeletor whenever those release. Next up, let's crack open the Marvel Legends Retro Carded Rhino. Slice. There we go. Perfect. And oh boy, I like it. The Build-A-Figure was modern. I can't even find the other head for it now. I think it was more classic, but overall it had the shoulder pads, it had the darker color scheme. It was dirty, it was gritty. And I do like how the wash and the color brought out a lot of the detail, but here, this is just much more classic feeling. That's how he looked when I was reading Spider-Man, or that handbook look. I never liked these as eyes though. When I was a kid, I thought they were ears, and then when I realized they were eyes, that kind of weirded me out. There's still some overspray in places on top of the pecs and up on top of the muscles. Pretty much on top of things, which I think should be lighter on top, and then the darkness down in the musculature, down in the shadows. So I feel like that's backwards, but it doesn't bug me too much. Well, okay, maybe we will do a repaint of this at some point. Besides its classicness, the other thing to catch your eye is it is just a brick of plastic. There's not a lot of space between. There's a little under the arms, through the legs. For the most part, it's a rectangle. It does limit the articulation a bit. There's not a lot of range because, well, okay, you can still get some running to it, and ooh, the knee breaks up. Have I never messed with the Build-A-Figure before? Despite all that, you can still get some kick-ass charging poses. If you're wanting a less battle-ready Rhino, the head does pop off at the base, and it comes with this other head that's a bit more neutral. I'm gonna have a hard time deciding which one to put on here. To go along with that, or anything you want to do with it, really, there's an alternate set of hands too that are open. That one's kind of grippy, and so is that one. Actually, that one's kind of trigger fingery. Give me a gun. No, I think I like the fists better. Subtle twist to give them a bit more dynamic look. Yeah. Rhino stands around 8 inches tall and has some size on your Spider-Mans, whether it be Marvel Legends or Sentinel. Next up, the 20th anniversary Marvel Legends Iron Man, which is a homage, a throwback to the original Toy Biz figure. Boy, that sandwich between the cardboard really toughens it up. Be stealthy about it. Is this how you want me to open them? There. I didn't tear up the package. Oops. There's one side of the background showing all these awesome Iron Mans. I'll take all of these in Marvel Legends. Well, actually, it looks like quite a few of them's just the same body with little tweaks. And that one has a nose. I don't know if I like that. Then on the other side, oh, it's a callback to the old Toy Biz base. And with that, it comes with this stand that you can just clip in there and then put the figure in front of it. Ba-boom. Blast effects with the smoke going around. I think we saw this with Ironheart first, right? And the reason I'm opening this now, after the fact, it's been out for a little bit, same reason as Nekron. Toad popped up on GameStop with a discount, and I thought, well, if I add in this Iron Man I've been kind of eyeballing for a bit, I'll get free shipping. That's how they always get me. But we have looked at, okay, that's not a hinge, which I think we've seen several times before. I don't know if it's because the hole in it doesn't allow for the disc of a hinge to go inside this, or is the camera even focusing? Even though they've made hinged repulsor blast hands before. If I want to use this, I have to thread it through and then plug it in. Well, I don't really think of repulsor blasts as having this. I think it's more like this, like a Jetstream or a chemtrail or something. But I'm probably going to display this with the fists. And those are easy enough to swap out. Another reason I hadn't rushed out to get this is because I had this. I've been pretty happy with this on the Classic Avengers shelf, even with the blues. But again, you tempt me with free shipping and I'll give anything a shot. Having them side by side now, I like the extra paint down in the grooves. They've panel lined it in places to give it a little extra oomph. They're still getting the boots backwards. That's an easy enough fix. You just twist it around, then bring the foot around and ankle forward. Looks much better with the cuff going across. Well, the right was already fixed. It was just the left. I'm not the biggest fan of the Hornhead helmet, but in a classic context, like I have on my Avengers shelf, it's not all reuse, though. There is a new torso to tone down the musculature. There's less abs. There's less these muscles, whatever those are. I don't know what they are because I've never had them, so to hell with them. And then on the old one, the high nipples are longer. These are a bit smaller. Also, the unibeam is toned way down. But if you want a little more 80s flavor, there's this. Is this the demon in the bottle era, Tony? And that should just, yeah, easy enough. Pop on, pop on. I said easy enough. Don't make a liar out of me. Come on. Behind the camera. I forgot that camera was on. You can still see me. I'm not struggling. Seems a little high and a little large. I think I've got it all the way down on there. But I like the sculpt. Well, the trunks are different too. It's missing the battery packs on the side, and it's a smaller buckle. I can't deny that this looks pretty damn good. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I saved the most controversial for last. A lot of people hate this figure because it doesn't look like what we saw in Book of Boba Fett, or in some of the comic book appearances. But my argument is that in other comic book appearances, which this is based on, he did look like a black furred Chewbacca. But Hasbro didn't really make their case by using just art of him big and bulky instead of some of those other appearances like in Dr. Aphra. You know the figure's tall when the feet are already sticking out. Okay, the Hasbro bowcaster isn't the greatest. I usually try to glue that part on because, well, okay, it's not bad. In fact, this one's a little stiffer than what I remember Chewbacca's being, but I'll probably either use it like this, or I'll use this third-party blaster I got from somewhere. Have the scar, have the eyes painted in, have the teeth. I'm not the biggest fan of yelling faces. Braids hanging down in the front. The armor looks good on this side, but it was packed wonky, so this side's warped down. Let's see what's going on here. Holy shit. Come on, baby. There we go. Oh, and that gives you a better look at the braids on the back, too. Or, well, I say braids. They're like just tied up hair. You see how it's warped down? It was packed like that at the factory, and it's sat that way since. This is bent down. Oh, I didn't even realize that was there. Is it gonna go like this? Is that how it goes? Or like this? So he can reach over and grab it. Or somewhere in between. How about here? No, that's too high. What Chewbacca body's under here? It is the standard Chewbacca. It only has the fur sculpted for a bandolier on this side. The Solo movie and the GameStop Wookiee had both sides. But it's a later Chewbacca because it only has the one cut in the torso. And it's actually a dumbbell at the top. So it's the updated Chewbacca. What's the finger situation? Oh, they have some flex to them. But what I'm going to try to do here is heat that up, try to bend it back into shape. Which requires the Johnny Storm Heatmaster 5000 on the lowest setting because that is a softer material. It will melt faster than hell if I hit it with full blast. Just a little, just softly, gently. How's that? I'm hoping the heat just springs it back into place for the most part. Actually, see that spike popping back up? That's not bad. Now that I'm looking, it's also popped up right here where it doesn't want to lay right. So just a bit more heat, let it reshape itself. Hell, let's just do the whole thing, just in case there's stuff I'm not noticing. There we go, much better. Let's try to get this on. I may need to heat this too. Oh, I did it. Yeah, that straightened it out. Now it's under the sculpt here. But with that bandolier sculpt on the shoulder, there's more wiggle room here. Not so much here because it pinches between the head and the shoulder. And overall, I'm going to piss some people off, but this is a version of comic book Krrsantan. So in that aspect, I like this. Could there be some dry brushing to the fur? Yes. Definitely. Could there be a wash and a paint job on top of the bandoliers and the scratched up, beat to hell shoulder pads and the pouches here on the back of the belt? Hell yes, there could be. Hell yes, there should be. Especially for the extra price here. It is a low effort. It was something to cash in on the appearance of Black Krrsantan in the show. And yeah, it comes off as a little cheap. But looking at the detail again here, this is some fantastic sculpt work. There's a leather texture and there and on top and more pouches under the arm because you can never have enough pouches. And then at the head too, comic book Krrsantan. It wasn't meant to be the show Krrsantan, which is an amazing design that was pulled from some comic book appearances, but not all comic book appearances. If you're on the fence, I would definitely wait for a sale, but if you were wanting something to go with your Dr. Aphra and your 000 and your BT1, this'll work. This is still formidable at 7.5 inches. It'll look nice on the shelf next to Dr. Aphra or Obi-Wan Kenobi. But I may also be slightly biased because I've already made my Book of Boba Fett Black Krrsantan. I'll still be buying the one that's coming, but this is my placeholder, and I had fun making it. So at the end of the day, this shot sucks, doesn't it? So at the end of the day, figure or fodder. For Rhino, I specifically got this because of the classicness. The Build-A-Figure is nice, but This is how I remember him. Figure. I guess I'm going to say the same thing about Beastman because he just brings that vintage flavor. Just a whole lot of nostalgia tug. Figure. Wheelie, a figure that can move, that I can pose, that I can transform. Figure. Iron Man, I'm on the fence about. While the other figure has the blue in the eyes and stuff, I can easily paint that and make a version that I like better for my classic shelf. But then there's the extra paint here and the toned down chest muscles. I'm even kind of coming around to the horn head. Fodder for now. And like the Rhino Beastman situation, what I just said about Iron Man applies to Nekron. This is fantastic sculpt, paint, posability, has a scythe. But my DC Universe Classics count far outweighs my McFarlane DC Multiverse count. So when I do finally get my DC display up somewhere, it's probably going to be those. Now, I could slip that Nekron into that, and it probably wouldn't stand out too much, but for now it's fodder. Then it comes down to Black Krrsantan. I can see a lot of people passing on this. For me, this is figure. There will be a brief moment of fodder as I wash the bandolier, maybe give a dry brush to the fur, but then it definitely becomes figure. And that's it. That's just my feelings on these figures that I opened up. It's not full-on reviews. It's just kind of a quick, here's this. If you enjoyed the return of Figure or Fodder, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus if you're interested in seeing videos early or in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh. And I guarantee somebody's gonna think, oh, he just likes it to spite all of us. No. I like it even more now that I have it out of the package. But like I've explained several times, mostly during play days, I like going back in, adding my own little flair, making the figure more unique for my shelf. Other than a wash here, this is perfectly fine.